everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Camelia from Calcedonia Sewing, and in this video I'm going to show you how to sew the G-string from the Bella set from Designer Stitch. You'll find in this playlist, in the Bella playlist on my channel, you'll find also tutorials how to sew the camisole. And now I'm going to show you how to sew this G-string. It's a little bit more tricky than the other versions of the underpants included in this tutorial. So I hope you'll find it useful. I'm using only my sewing machine, but if you want to use your cover stitch machine to apply the lace on this string, on this G underpants, you can totally use it, but you see how you can follow the steps I used on the camisole. Is really the same thing on sewing the lace on the underpants. So only the sewing machine, a zigzag stitch and a straight stitch on a few points. Very easy. The G-string has also a lining for the crotch. You'll see how I'm doing that. Really easy. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have something that you don't understand, please let me know in the comments. I'll also love to read in your comments if you did succeed using my tutorial to sew your G-string from the Bella camisole. And don't forget, subscribe to my channel if you want. Give me a thumbs up, then I know that you really like the tutorial, and I hope you will enjoy sewing this G-string. Happy sewing and enjoy my tutorial. For making the G-string, I have of course the pattern pieces here. I have this is the front, and this little bit is the back. So the front and the back, and the back is getting here a little bit of how should I say, a piece of it is going to be just lace. And I think this is the part that is a little bit tricky in making the G-string. So I cut my pieces. I have here the front, which is cut on the fold, of course. And I have here the back, also cut on the fold, because this is cotton jerseys curling a little bit. And I have here a piece, another small piece, the crotch lining. I use the same printed fabric, but of course you can use just a plain white cotton jersey or whatever print you want. So I have the main pieces, and I have here my lace. I'm going to use this lace. Is the same one that I used in my camisole, I think, or no, this is similar. But I have the lace. This is 3 centimeter wide, and I have here even more, because I'm pretty sure this one is just enough for the leg opening. I just want to say that I'm not pre-cutting my laces. I'm just sewing from the bulk, and I think that's the best way to do it, because like this I know I will have enough. And when I'm sewing, I'm just putting a little bit of pressure on the lace, so to be sure that it's going to hug my body. And I'm not stretching a lot. I'm just a little bit of pressure. You'll see it in a moment at the sewing machine. I'm going to use only the sewing machine in this tutorial. I'm not going to use the cover stitch, because I suppose most of people have for sure a sewing machine. But if you want to see how it's done sewing the lace with the cover stitch machine, I'll put a link to my previous tutorial on sewing the lace on the camisole, and there you can see how I'm using the cover stitch machine to apply the lace. Is exactly the same thing as here. And I'm going to use a plain, a small zigzag stitch. I'm going to look at the machine in a moment to tell you exactly my my size, but of course your machine might have a different size zigzag that you like. So I always advise to make a small sample on your sewing machine, and this is mine. I use this because I'm going to use also to sew the side seams. I'm going to use my sewing machine, and then I'm going to top stitch with a zigzag. And here I tried a little bit the same size of the zigzag on attaching the lace, and I think I'm going to use these settings because I like them. I think it's really stretchy, so I think it's going to work perfectly for my string. Okay, so let's start sewing. So I'm at the sewing machine. I'm using my Puff 720 and my settings are 3.6 wide and 3 length. And as I said, I tested and this is what I liked, and this is what I'm going to use on my garment. I'm going to start with the back piece. Just going to try to put it a little bit more to the back. And if you made the Bella camisole, this is exactly the same way. I'm going to apply the lace at the edge. I'm here at the leg opening, of course. So it doesn't matter which one you start, the right or the of the left, or if you start putting the lace on your front, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to start here with the back, and I'm putting the wrong side of the lace. You see your lace has a right side and a back side. So the back side of my lace, the wrong side of the lace, I'm going to put it on the right side of my jersey. So I also decided how much I want to overlap. In the pattern is considered a seam allowance of 6 millimeters, so don't go much further than that. But I'm going to follow maybe an edge here on my lace to be sure that I am on the right, that I'm straight. But what you can also do, you can trace here with a piece of chalk or with an erasable marker or something. You can trace your 6 millimeter seam allowance, and then of course you know that you need to go with your lace exactly like this. But you see at the moment also on the back and or at least on the front, you see for sure that there you are losing a little bit from the width of the piece. I'm going to show you there in a moment. So I'm just going to follow one of these edges of the flowers, these holes. They are going to be on the edge of my fabric, and like that I know that I'm a little bit straight. I'm going to start a little bit. Give me something to grab here at the back. I'm just going to sew. So I have my settings already done on the machine, and I'm just going to start sewing. And I also like to put the presser foot pressure a little bit lighter, like 2 points maybe. That is not keeping my fabric too tight. And I can, as you can see, I'm only stretching a little bit this. And again, I'm following these holes in my lace. But of course you probably use a different lace, so you have to use another reference point. And I'm just folding this all the way down. What is important here is that you don't go too much to the edge, because otherwise of course you miss some of your jersey and you have holes in your underwear, and we don't want that. Okay, I'm almost done. That's why I'm saying that I'm not cutting to size, because it's always much easier just to sew with the bulk. And this is how it's looking now, as you can see, or maybe you cannot see, but I'm going to show you in a moment. So I'm going to continue here to the point. That's pretty easy, right? And then I don't really need to backstitch, but I'm going to just a little bit. And now I can take my work out. So one leg is done. This is how it's looking now. Really, really pretty. This will need a little bit of press. This is from the inside. I think you can see my stitches pretty well. And even if you know, because not always, I also don't get this always right, but if you get a little bit more jersey here outside your zigzag stitch, you can just come with your scissors and then just trim very carefully the extra fabric. But in this case it's looking really nice, so I'm going to let it like this. So now I started at the side seam and now I'm at the center back, and I know that in the pattern this piece here, you know, that is coming between your bum, this needs to be 5 centimeters wide, so it's going to be formed of course by the second pass of the lace, and it must be 6 centimeters long. I'm just going to, let's see, I have here on my machine a scale, this is centimeters, so I'm going to cut it at 9, and later I'm going to cut it much on size. Let's see, so this is it now. So now I'm going to start putting the lace on the other part from the side seam all the way down, and this is a little bit this is the part that is a little bit tricky in this case. Of course now I'll have to sew from this side, and of course I'm going to, it's really cool on this machine, can you see that? If I put this again up, it's lowering the dog feet automatically, so my fabric can go very easily under the presser foot. So again, I'm here at the side seam. I'm going to start a little bit into my lace to have something to grab on, and I'm going to follow again the same reference point. I don't really need to backstitch here at the beginning because that's going to get caught in the side seam in a moment, so it's not going to happen anything with it. Okay. Let's see. Again, I'm following my reference point on my lace to be sure that I'm not falling off the fabric. Also that I'm not going to put it like this, because you can see it's going to eat way too much for my fabric. Just a little bit of tension on the lace, just a little bit, not stretching, but just a tiny bit. Okay, now I'm approaching here at the center back, and what I want to do is to come surely until this point here, exactly at the center back. I'm going to sew until this point. Let me rearrange it like so. Be sure that you catch it there. And now I'm a little bit, just one stitch overlapping the lace. And what is important now, and I will have to get a measuring tool. One moment. The width of this piece must be 5 millimeters. Why is this important? Because then this is going to marry exactly the width of the crotch from the front piece. So as you can see, let's see which one is the crotch. This is the crotch here, and this one is 6 centimeters, but that is including the seam allowance, of course. So my width of my lace needs to be exactly the 5 centimeters from here till here, to be sure that it's going to match the front. I'm creating actually now the piece that is sewing to the front. So now I need to see how much I need to overlap my lace. If I put it like this, this is already too much. I need to be 5 centimeters, and you know, it's really up to you if you want to measure this from the high point of the lace or from the lower point of the lace. By high point I mean these ones that these points that they are coming more out, and these are the lower points of the lace. So I'm going to go, you know, somewhere between. Let's see. even lesser. I think this is good, so just a tiny bit. You know, everything is very stretchy and it's not going to be the end of the world. And now, of course, it's important that I'm sewing these two together. Let's see if I'm still a little bit, yes. And I think if you really want to be sure, you can do even 2 passes on this. Okay, I'm going to cut it here because I know I'm already too long. You know, I cut it the first one a little bit longer. So this is how it's looking now. Let's see. This is now the piece that is coming in the back that is going to sew to the front. And now I can cut this to measure. Let's see, this is way too long. This is like 10 centimeters almost, and I know that I need only 5. So that's going to be cut, or I need to have 6, sorry. So it's going to be cut here. Let's see. Maybe I should measure it again. Then I can show you exactly how that's looking inside. Okay. So my back piece is completed. Let's see here. This is now together. This is looking really, really pretty. And if you really want to be sure and your lace is much wider, or I don't know, if you are not sure that this is cut well, you can come with a second row of top stitching. Maybe in another kind of lace I would do that for sure, but this one is looking really okay. So this is the piece now. I'm going to grab the front, and there I'm going to show you how also there the lace is coming a little bit up, on each other, to get again this small this piece here exactly the width that we need to match to each other. I have here the front piece. Again, I'm going to start with from one of the side seams. Doesn't really matter from which one. I'm going to start from this one just because, no reason. Okay, I'm going to put this again higher so I can slide my fabric really easy, and then I can sew it just as with the other one in the beginning. What is important to know here is that, of course, I'm going to keep the lace taut, like with the back, but you will not go here all the way with the 6mm seam allowance. After you are coming a little bit here, before you are starting to go into this, let me see, into the rounding here, you have to come a little bit inside with your lace, as per instructions you'll see in a moment. So I'm just going a little bit more. Let me see. And a little bit more. And a little bit more. From here on, I cannot go all the way straight like this, keeping the seam allowance of 6mm, because if I will do that, imagine that here I'm coming with the other leg, like so. Do you see what is happening? Then I get the width of my crotch is going to be 9 centimeters or something like that. So to be able to have your pieces matching, you have to come here with your lace from one side and also from the other one, to get in the end here at the crotch the same width as with your little back here. Because in the end, so imagine that I'm coming from with the other side, I'll have to have the same width at this one to be able to sew them together. So to do that, I'm just going to keep sewing, but I'm not going to come straight down. I'm just going to come here in, And I think the best is, I'm not sure, I think there is no notch on the pattern, but if you fold this in two and make a small snip here at the fold, then you have a little bit of an idea on how you need to come. I know that my laces, to have the 5 centimeter, needs to be just a little bit overlapped, something like this. So this is what I need to have here at that center, at that notch I just made. So I'm just coming with my lace, aiming to catch that notch, just a little bit over. And of course, keeping sewing on this, on the edge of the lace, something like this. My notch is here. I'm just overlapping with a little bit of lace. I can cut it. So this one is done. This is how it's looking now. This is from the back. You can see how my sewing went a little bit in, and I stopped here at this notch. So I'm going to cut my lace here. Oops. And now I can come on this side, and again I'm coming from the side, just a little bit lace hanging out. Let me see. Yes. Oh, oops. And the same treatment. And once you have the first piece done, the second one is actually always easier because you know what you're aiming for. So I'm now almost here at that rounded part of the string, of the edge of the fabric, and I'm just going to come. You need to be careful, or you need to watch a little bit where you started. Here you can start also on the other side to come in with your lace. I think I need to go just a tiny bit more. And now I want to have it like so. And to cut this. And this is looking like this now. Let's see. And now later I'll be able to trim this away because I don't really need it. I can also trim it now. Let's see. I can trim the rest of the lace anyway. And very carefully with your scissors you can cut this. Take your time, don't do it too fast. And the other one, let's see if we can do this a little bit. Be careful to trim only the jersey and not the lace. I don't have those fancy shears with duckbill shears or something like that. I don't have them, so I'm just cutting really carefully. So this is the front now. This is the crotch part, and this is how it's looking at the moment. So here is the front with the lace coming here in a point. We trimmed this, everything what was extra away, and now it's nice and clean. So to put them together, you have the front, you have the back, so you put them right sides together, and you are matching the centers here at the crotch. and maybe it's handy to have a little pin. And what you also need to put at this moment, just going to put for a moment a pin, depending where you finished with your lace, or the high or the low point, maybe you have a really very small discrepancy here, but you see at the end everything is going to work fine. And this is the crotch lining. So how I'm going to put that? So the front and the back are right sides together, and now and matched here the crotch, and now I'm coming with my crotch lining, and this one is going to be attached with the right side on the wrong side of the back. So it's going to come like this. Can you see that? So I have here the front, this is the back, facing together, right sides together, and now I'm coming with the crotch lining, putting it right sides on the wrong side of the back. And this is going to be pinned also together. If you don't have a notch here, you can make a fold, just a little notch, because you have only a 6mm seam allowance, and then it's going to be of course much easier to put this together with the center front and center back that are meeting all together here. And just going to put another pin. Okay, so everything is really nice and tucked here. So you have 3 layers, front, back, right sides together, and the crotch lining with the right side on the wrong side of the back. This is the back. Okay, and now I'm going to sew it here with a straight stitch with a 6mm seam allowance. I have the pieces, all pieces here. I'm going to change my stitch back to a straight stitch. Let me see. Yes, and I'm going to sew this using a 6mm seam allowance. Doesn't hurt to backstitch a little bit here. Well, I think my seam allowance is more like a centimeter here, but it's okay. Backstitch and cut everything, and let's see what we have. This is the seam. So everything is sewn. This is how I took it off the machine. Let's see. I have here some small threads. Just going to take away. Very annoying. So this is how everything came out from the machine. Sewn here the 3 layers, and now we can open it up. I have here the front, I have here the back, and this is my crotch lining. What I'm going to do with this is coming to the front like this, and if you want you can finish this edge of the crotch lining. I'm not going to. I have a bunch of ready-to-wear underwear that are just plain like this, but you can definitely make a really small zigzag, or you can even run it with your serger, maybe using one of those fine threads, but I'm going to leave it like this. So again, the crotch lining was attached on the back, right side of the crotch lining to the back, wrong side. And now when I'm flipping it like this, the seam is getting covered, and the only thing I need to do here is to put it like so. That is going to give me the chance to stitch it here a little bit, like if it's possible to follow the previous stitching line of the lace, like so. Stretch it a little bit, and here again put some pins and run zigzag stitch to have it in place. So I have my crotch lining pinned, as you can see, and you know, I can feel under my crotch lining, I can feel where my seam is, but I know that it's pretty close. You know, when you are going to pin it, you'll see that it's really fitting here on this area. So I'm just going to follow this piece like this, exactly as the crotch lining is cut. And if you follow this exactly on the edge, you will see that in a moment how everything is looking. What is important here is that you are using matching thread also in your bobbin, because you are sewing now from the back. Of course, you see your bobbin thread. Just a little bit of back stitching. This is how it's looking on the inside, and from the front side, from the right side, you really cannot see anything because my thread is white, my lace is white. If you are using a different color here for the crotch lining and you really don't want to see this last step on the lining, you can definitely use some thread matching your crotch lining. But to be honest, nobody's watching on the crotch lining of my underwear. Oh my god, to see what thread I used. But you never know, maybe okay, so for me this is good enough. So this is how it's looking now. I'm just going to give it just a little bit of a press, threads away everywhere. I have some here too. Just 1 second to give this a small press. My iron is even warm. So this is how it's looking from the front. Where is it? Is here, yes. This is from the front. And this is from the back with the crotch lining attached, as you can see. And now the next step is, of course, putting the side seams together. And I'm just going to sit here at the machine. So I'm going to sew first one of the side seams. It doesn't matter which one, the right one, the left one, doesn't matter. So I'm just going to sew one. I'm going to sew it first with a straight stitch. Again, if you are not comfortable with that, keep the zigzag stitch, but I'm always sewing this with a straight stitch. 6mm seam allowance. I'm just going to take a 1 centimeter just because. Back stitch here if you want. And I'm saying if you want because the next step is to top stitch this to the back. I'm going to, so this is how it's looking stitched. I'm going to trim just a little bit because I used a little bit bigger seam allowance. This size is just tiny bit wide on me. So this is my seam allowance, and I'm going to move it to the back. Which one is my back? To the back, and I'm going to top stitch it from the front. You can use here also straight stitch or zigzag stitch. I'm just going to use the straight stitch because this is what the machine is set. And try to put and make a nice point here at the lace. And I am going to back stitch here, really easy, to avoid getting a lump. And if you think that you cannot back stitch on your lace, you can sew to the end, let your needle in the work, turn it, and then go back or sew to a few stitches more. I'm going to show you in a moment on the other side seam. So now my side seam is stitched. This is how it's looking. It's pretty nice. So what I can do now, because I'm doing this, I'm sewing one side seam only because I'm applying the edging, the lace at the waist also flat, and then I'm going to put together the other side seam. If you are applying your lace in the round, but again I'm not using that because I don't want to measure and to fuss with all that. I'm going to put it in the flat and then put it here together. So now I have a side seam done. Where is it? This one? Where I am? This one is done. And now I can grab my lace again, put my machine back on the zigzag stitch, the same like the rest of the garment. Let's put this these threads away. Okay, and now I'm going to start on the open side seam here, and I need to start on my other bundle with lace. And again is exactly the same process as until now. You put your lace, find your point, and just start sewing all the way to the other side seam. So all the way around to, you are going to I'm starting here on my back, I'm going all the way to the side seam, all the way to the front, and I'm finishing at the other edge. I mean, talking this is taking much longer than really making the garment. It's not necessary to backstitch here because I'm going to catch this seam again in the other side seam, cutting the rest of the lace. Let's see. Moment the machine to the back, and I have it now like this. So this is how it's looking. Oops. Everything is the side seam is now the waist lace is on, but I still have one side seam open. So how can I? What can I do now? Of course, I'm going to turn this wrong sides out, and I'm going to also to make this one cut away. And now I can put, oh, these ones are driving me crazy. Go away. And now I can come with my side seams. Please take care that you are not twisting anything inside, or anything inside, you know, that you get a twisted mess. So nice right sides, wrong sides out, right sides together here, the side seam. Match the laces like so, and the fabric, of course. And you know, you can put a pin or two. And now I can start sewing. If your machine has problems with starting sewing over the lace, you can use a piece of paper. I think this is kitchen paper, but paper towel was the name in English. Again, with your usual seam allowance, I'm going to put this back to my straight stitch as I did on the other side seam. Okay, I have a piece of paper here just to have something for my machine, or you get to show you that if you have problems you can use this back stitch. What you also can use, of course, any other kind of stabilizer or tissue paper, but the best, you can use a piece of toilet paper. The thinner the better. It will go very easily away. Okay. And if you have problems with going with back stitching on lace, you can come to the end, or almost to the end, needle in, turn your work, and then take a few stitches. This is something you can always do if you have problems with back stitching, in order to not to get that ugly lump here at the end. And here is my paper towel that should rip very easy, but the best is, usually I'm using toilet paper, but I don't have it now. Okay, so everything is out. Yes, put this away. So now I have my side seam. My underwear is basically done, but you sew this with a 6mm seam allowance. I just use a little bit bigger, but I'm going to trim it away. Yes. And the last step is also here, just a row of top stitching from the front. And I want to turn this to be sure that I'm going to top stitch it to the back, like this one. So the back is this piece, so I'm going to push it to the back, the whole seam allowance, and keeping it to the side I want to have it. So this is the back. I'm just going to straight stitch this thing also. Again, back stitching not really necessary, but please be free to do it. And because I have that seam allowance a little bit too small, I'm going to turn this instead of back stitching and take a few stitches here. That's actually the same thing. And now we are done. I'm going to show it to you at the table. So the underwear is completely done, as you can see it here. This is the lace at the waist with the top stitched side seams. So also for this I just used the sewing machine, no surgery involved. This is how it's looking from the inside. Trim some threads, and I think it's really nice. This is the other side seam, and I think sewing it flat is taking a lot of guessing out of the problem, because you just sew it flat with just a little bit of tension, and then everything is getting really nice sewn. And also maybe you are thinking, oh, but then I will get those ugly things here, the side seams, if I need to sew it then in at the end. But as you can see, you cannot see anything. If you keep your distance nice here with the lace, everything is going to fit really beautifully. And this G-string is going to go nicely with my camisole. Unfortunately, oh no, I am the lucky one. You see that? I used for the camisole the same lace. So now I have a complete set, as you can see. I hope you enjoyed this video. Very soon I'm going to put another one for one of the sleeves, but in principle it's really the same thing. You put the leg lace, sew one side seam, and then put your waist lace and put them together here at the side seam, and then everything is done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give me thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my videos. Put your notifications on to be the first one to know when a new video is coming on the channel. And I would love to hear from you, so I would love to read your comments here below the video. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy sewing your Bella G-string. Bye!